Welcome to the last talk on the studio stage today. Before we start with the talk, a little organizational information. After this talk, please head down to the main stage as we will have the Neos Awards afterwards. So there is supposed to be no break in between, just head straight down. So we can all enjoy the Neos Awards together and then have the conference closing for today before there's dinner and the social event. But last but not least, today on the studio stage, we will hear about Sevensite, the journey of building a Neos-SaaS platform by Niklas, Droste and Patrice. Kaufmann, please come on stage. Welcome.
Hi, welcome to our talk, our first talk on a Neos conference. Because it's the first talk, a short note on where we come from, who we are. We are from Kaufmann Digital. We are a Neos agency since 2014, and currently we are 5 Neos natives working at our company. My name is Niklas. I'm 9 years into Neos development. And this is Patrice.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Patrice Kaufmann, and quick notes about myself. I have been working with Flash development around 18 years ago. I joined Kaufmann Digital in the year 2018, and my focus has been on Neos-CMS ever since. So, a quick structure about our talk today. We call it the content map. It's a road to Sevensite and how we got there. So, we start off by a short presentation about our internal framework. We'll tell you how we shaped our product, and then we discuss some more details about our product, the environment, cloud hosting, editor experience, and we conclude on how it changed our agency life and how why it's for us a really nice thing. So, Sevensite has become a really big focus within our team. And Niklas, how about you briefly introduce some Sevensite to the audience?
Sure. So where are we today? We started way before the point of where we are today, but where are we today? What is Sevensite? When we must describe it in one sentence, we say it's a website as a service platform. I think I don't have to explain software as a service, you will know. Currently it's based on Neos 8.3. We are working on Neos 9, obviously, but it's not finished yet. It comes with the cloud hosting, and it's in today's time, it's very important to be GDPR compliant and now upcoming accessible for the BFSG. Who maybe someone also stumbled about it. When we decided to build Sevensite, or when we plan a new feature for Sevensite, we also already noticed that we have the current web best practices, so that the user don't have to care about SEO or accessibility, about compatibility to devices. We also already want to be at the best standard there. Also, it's very customizable. The user or the customer can decide between 24 plus additional modules they can book. It has external AI services or other services they can use in combination with Sevensite. And there's also a possibility to individualize the Sevensite. So when there's a customer and he says, hey, I need this feature, but it's very individual just for me, we also can do that with Sevensite. That's the thing we do. As I mentioned before, the idea started way before we started with Sevensite. And Patrice will give you a few insights about that, how we came there.
Yeah, as Niklas has mentioned, we started our work on Sevensite in the year 2020. However, at that point, we did not even know that we were working on Sevensite. So, in 2020, after having worked on multiple projects with Neos-CMS, we had a lot of inconsistent code bases. That was due to different reasons, but mostly because we like to experiment, try out new things, naming conventions, how we structure our code. So we ended up in a situation where it was very messy, as we heard in the talk earlier. And on top of that, we had very outdated build pipelines. We were running a grunt setup with jQuery and Bower and all the good stuff, you know? So that's not really something we wanted to continue, and because it was a very painful developer experience, and it was not enjoyable to work on these old projects. And moving forward, we wanted to change things for the better, so we started unifying things. And for this, we created a group of packages. Internally, it's called Nova. And when working on these Nova packages, we had certain design principles in mind that would that all packages within that group would have to follow. So we wanted a shared structure across packages that no matter what package we work on, we would feel familiar within that package, and we could quickly jump between developers, packages, projects, without having to readjust our workflows. We wanted to introduce Fusion and YAML naming conventions. And on the right, you can probably see an extract of, you can see an extract of an example project structure. We land into the atomic design system and made use of that on a node type and Fusion prototype basis. We wanted to have highly reusable Fusion components that actually focuses on best practices when it comes to reusability, having no node context on your presentational components, and stuff like this. We also wanted to move away from jQuery and move to a vanilla JS setup and prove efficient, lightweight code, because we wanted to achieve a really scalable system overall. On top of that, we needed very restrictive constraints for the node-type structures. We had certain examples or certain projects in the past where the editors already had some kind of modular toolkit available. However, it was very loose, and they would, of course, nest a multi-column within a multi-column, and that 4 times. So there wasn't really we needed to control these possibilities, the editor possibilities. And let's have a look at what the package ecosystem is as of right now. We have like around more than 100 packages, ranging from simple packages for headline text button to more complex packages. For example, a listable package that provides utilities for a nice Elasticsearch wrapper with a faceted search, so that it's easy, for example, for an events package to make use of it, provide a nice search for events. That events package, for example, also provides a booking form. So we have all kinds of use cases that are now served by these packages in a structured way, and that we can keep expanding on. Now, while we have a lot of packages available for use cases, there are some packages that stand a bit out and make it all possible. First of all, we're going to look at our core package, and then the root page package. For that, let's have a look at the following problem, which was quite a big problem for us back then. Let's imagine a big main.css file, around 308 kilobytes, and this is the problem. Why is this problematic even? It leads to long loading times, especially on mobile. The style parsing of the browser is slow and expensive. It leads to bad page speed scores, because if you look at this image, for example, on the home page, it only uses a certain part of the main CSS file. So you end up with a lot of unused code rules, and this negatively impacts the page speed score, which then negatively impacts SEO ranking, search engine rankings. And for us, most importantly, a setup like this would not be scalable. We wanted our package family to keep on growing and expanding. And if at some point we would be limited by the file size of a simple style sheets file, it would all break apart. So we wanted to have a structure that would break down styles and JavaScript into smaller chunks. And wouldn't it be cool if we knew beforehand, like when a page renders, what kind of styles are needed? Like usually within Neos, because it's also flexible and offers a lot of possibilities to the editors, you often can't really define rules as to which styles to load on what page. So this is where we needed a more dynamic way. And to some members in the audience, this might actually look familiar, since we integrated this functionality into the CGM project from back then with the collaboration of .de. So this package, Nova Core, actually handles the JavaScript and CSS handling, and it provides on-demand resource functionality, so that when a page renders, we know what resources to load. You might wonder, okay, but it creates a lot of single requests to files. This is where HTTP protocol 2 comes in handy. Instead of having multiple connections for all these resource files, it opens a stream, and those files are getting transferred in parallel. So we're not losing on that part. There's a limit per stream, but it's all working very nicely today. So here's an example of a slider component. That's another package of ours. So there's this top-level CSS equals declaration, and you can see an array of 3 styles that are being defined here. And later on, this top-level Fusion declaration is evaluated, and the style rules, these definitions get transformed into link and script tags on the head and body tags of the document. So what is nice about this is that, for example, look at the second line. We have the slider has a fade option, right? You can enable, disable the fade option, and depending on that selection, you would need more styles. But since that option is rarely used, we wanted to extract a certain part of the style sheets to make it load faster, to make it even more lightweight. And so the second rule is actually the fade rule, which is applied conditionally, depending whether that option is disabled or enabled. The same also applies to the back end, where we have, for many components, we provide additional backend styles to enhance the editor experience. For example, for a slider, there's certain things added in the Neos backend to make it more usable. And this is also nice for these cases. Looking at the root page package, it also solves an issue we always had when having to work on Neos projects. It's a header and a footer. Most of pages have stuff like this. So we wanted to solve it in a centralized way. And how did we do it? We added this root page node type that comes with a content collection for header and footer. And with strict constraints, you have dedicated node types for header and footer, which can be inserted into these content collections. The defined headers and footers then cascade onto the subpages, so that you have one position where you actually define these headers and footers. Why do we even need them node-based, you might ask? Well, the reason is that we often had requirements that certain parts of the header or footer would be editable in Neos. So that needed to be solved. And an example for this is the current website of Umco, where we have like a top-level root page seen on the left, and the nested root page seen on the right, where we have a different header with a different menu and a different logo. So the logo is actually a property on the header itself, which then can be used to navigate within sub-areas of a page, which also proved to be very useful for areas like a career sub-area on a website. Looking back at the last 5 years of working with this framework, we can say that it definitely has helped us with when dealing with recurring problems. We were able to deliver more results in less time. What does it mean? Because we had all these use cases already solved in a way that would make them reusable, we were able to go back to these packages and actually use them for all the kind of use cases. This also meant, however, that when the use case was not solved already, we had to put in a bit more time to actually make it to actually create a flexible package. It definitely takes more time than just writing the code in a side package. And in the last years, we noticed an increasing amount of overlapping requirements, especially related to GDPR and accessibility. So we thought to ourselves, wouldn't it be cool if we combined all these packages into a single product? And this is where we started shaping our product. And for this, we went on a vision workshop. Here you can see some images of the mess we created. And a lot of brainstorming was done over the 2 days. And we actually ended up with some main goals. So let's have a look at the goals we defined. Our product should serve as a red carpet for Neos CMS. It should also broaden the usage of Neos CMS. In our experience, we had a lot of customers that would not choose Neos CMS because it was too expensive to develop, too difficult to get into, and we wanted to tackle this challenge, to tackle this problem, and solve it with a product as a service. We also wanted to have an ever-updating software, so maintenance should not be optional, but essential. We wanted to serve the latest versions of the framework at any given time. And since we all love problem solving, this is us doing some escape room shenanigans during our yearly traditional celebration. And some magic moment happened where we all transformed into old wizards, and we found a name for our product, which is now Sevensite. And Niklas is now going to tell you more about the details behind Sevensite and what's actually needed to run it as a software as a service.
Yeah, now we are on a state where we have the awesome framework we can create different kind of websites with, but it's far away from a finished product you just can book or you just can bring to life. So you need a few more things. A decision we made was to introduce modules. We call them modules. Basically, a user books a module or uses a module, and one module can represent one or more packages from the framework Patrice mentioned, and gains access to them. We have free and we have built modules. Example for a free module would, for example, be headline text, sections, everything you need to build a normal website without any functionality. Build modules could be an external API service you can use. It can be an event management module where you can put events on, teams on, locations on, and so on. The individualization of each Sevensite is done by picking these modules. So each customer can decide, I want that, I want that, I want that, and combine its custom Sevensite. That's the way individualization happens between different Sevensites. The customer has monthly options to book or cancel a package, a module. So if the customer doesn't need event management anymore, he can just cancel it and can book another package or a module he wants. Package and module is basically naming the same internally. To manage all these, which customer needs which module and how should everything look like, we created a centralized API. This API is used by us as DevOps teams to create Sevensite sites, manage them, stop them, and so on. It communicates with the cloud hosting to do all the things we want them to do. And the customer also can communicate with the API over an UI to see what he currently has booked, can book new things, and so on. There's an UI, and so on. The API also pushes all that information to our billing service, so that we don't have to care about who has to pay for what. And it collects monitoring data, usage data from different services to get all in a centralized place. That is also used by our sales. Currently, Mirko does the most of our sales jobs. He can access all the usage data, can start a new Sevensite in minutes to create a demo for the customer, and so on. And of course, it communicates with each Sevensite instance. Each Sevensite instance knows from the API what packages should the user be able to use, which not, which configuration should the user have, and so on. Now we have a setup, but the different Sevensites need a hosting or when we speak about hosting, you first need in our case, Docker image to start it somewhere in the cloud. We choose GitLab because we used GitLab before starting with Sevensite, and we are very happy with that, with the pipelines and so on. And in case of Sevensite, we have different users using our GitLab. It's the developers, which are putting new features and bug fixes into the product. It's Renovate, which is putting a bot putting package updates, Composer, NPM, and so on into the project at GitLab. And at the end, we need something we can deploy to our hosting, Docker images. So what happens inside of GitLab in our case? First of all, there are many, many repositories. We heard about it, more than 100, where the package live. Then we have a few repositories where the base image lives, something like PHP with all dependencies, Nginx with all the dependencies, and so on. And we have some kind of hosting configuration each Sevensite needs to get started in the hosting later. We built two types of images from that, and we also have two types of repositories there. We have a standard repository where all the Sevensites which are not having any individual programming inside can use it. We have also a few individual projects. These get an individual repository from us. We put our individualizations in these repositories, and there's also a similar image getting from there. And GitLab does all the stuff we need to get it all together. Installing packages via Composer, building JS, building CSS, putting all together in a Docker image, and put it available for the hosting. A short note on release management. I think it's nothing really special. You might not know. We do semantic versioning on each package so that we can have an overview and get rid of which package version is used, hopefully already the newest. Then we do weekly reviews of open merge requests. Often they come from Renovate. Minor versions are deployed depending on when the feature is needed, and patch level versions ASAP depending on the urgency. Now we have the packages, we have the image which all we need to get it deployed. So let's take a look about cloud hosting. Why cloud hosting? Docker is a standard solution. We have easy rollouts, easy deployments, so our wish was to use Docker. We used some standard hosting before, and the wish was, hey, let's get a standardized environment for all Sevensites. Kubernetes is a big blue elephant in the room when you speak about hosting Docker images. Why? Yeah, it's industry standard, and you have a lot of scalability options. When you book your Kubernetes cluster at a big provider, you can nearly scale wherever you want, and you get these managed servers. So you don't have to even think about where's the server running, is it running, do I have to monitor the system itself? You don't have to, you just need to book a Kubernetes cluster. It also gives us the opportunity to change the provider. So as the industry standard applies for every big hoster, Google Cloud, AWS, Ionos, and so on, you can just switch the provider without changing anything on the environment we build. A short look about how we did our hosting. We chose Ionos just because it was to the time back then. It was the only provider hosting only in Germany, and can be compared with the big ones, AWS, Google Cloud, and so on. There we book obviously a Kubernetes cluster and run Sevensites in this cluster. You see, we run Neos and Redis directly side by side. it's really in one pod, one Kubernetes pod, to get no network latency between these two services. We communicate between Neos and Redis over socket connections, and that was a big performance boost on that. Maybe you noticed you cannot really run in Neos without some other services, so you need, for example, MariaDB, OpenSearch, Matomo for local tracking instead of using Google Analytics, and Thumbor. Does anybody know Thumbor? Yeah, okay. It's an image optimization service. We implemented it directly in the ingress of Kubernetes. So Neos delivers images to the user in the given format and so on, but not optimized. No WebP image, not compromised, and so on. So on the way to the user in the response, Thumbor does all that things for us. Besides Kubernetes, we also use other cloud services from Ionos. I think no surprise what you can use. We need volumes for Kubernetes too, but we switched for our Neos resources. We switched to an object storage or S3 because it was much faster than buying small volumes, 5 or 10 gigabytes from Ionos, because they are rate limited. A few security and availability aspects. We force TLS encryption on every request. HTTP isn't a thing. Secrets are only stored in the Kubernetes storage, nowhere else. We have external monitoring services to get all information, even if the full cluster is down. And we have Sentry, Loki, and Prometheus running inside the cluster to get monitoring of the health of the Sevensites. Then we do daily backups, of course, and store them on redundant locations to even get rid of a problematic when a full data center isn't available anymore or something else. And we external host our Git versioned Kubernetes config. So all the config we need to run for this Kubernetes cluster is stored on another hoster externally. So if there's anything with the current hoster, we can just switch to another one if needed. Patrice will give you another aspect about Sevensite we think about, and it's the user experience.
Yeah, let's dive right into it. And we want to share some of our experiences we made along the years when it comes, for example, to node-type naming. Node-type naming matters. And when we started naming node types, we tried stuff like product teaser, which would contain a headline, text button, reference property. And we quickly realized that editors would use those in really unintended ways. Suddenly there was a full block without even having a block on that website, and the product teaser would be used as a blog article teaser. So we figured that we wanted to change this, and we switched to a more functional naming scheme. For example, simple content teaser. We try to use adjectives to make the names more memorable. And to be honest, we're quite surprised that these editors perceive those names better and quite well. And it's funny when customers talk to you about a sequential grid, because actually it's just fully functional and not really tangible, but it works quite well in our experience. Further point about editor experience is that usually editors have different skill levels. And if you add too many options in Neos, they are quickly overwhelmed. We try to reduce the complexity in Sevensite. However, like a modular system like Sevensite, which is based on a module toolkit, that needs at least some complexity. So we try to focus on a couple of things to achieve good accessibility. What does it mean? We try to add good default values to node types that make sense, node templates where they make sense. We try to structure the inspector grouping in logical ways that are accessible, like that make it easy to understand even a bit more complex node types. Because sometimes you really need it and you can't be too simple. When it comes to the editor experience, it's also important that you focus a bit on the little details. For example, we try to minimize required page reloads. That's especially noticeable when dealing with like interactive elements like tab controls, sliders, collapsible elements, where sometimes when inserting an element, we have seen implementations that would force a page reload. For example, with the tab control, there's like a single content collection at best, and when you insert a label, the item needs to be updated as well. So for this, we provide extra JavaScript in the backend to create a nice editor experience. We are able to create a nice or a better experience for the editor by having a new event provided as well. This is for example, the Neos content reloaded event, which is available in the Neos backend, which listens to changes on node types. What happens when you edit a property on an image slider? The image gets reloaded by the out-of-band rendering and just gets replaced in line. There's no new event for node created, one of the existing events, node removed, node selected. All those are not getting fired. And for example, in order to reinitialize an image slider, you need to listen to this kind of reload event. So this is one of our approaches when it comes to interactive content within the Neos backend, that most of the elements are feeling quite nice to edit content and put content into. For example, on the image on the right, you can see a selected image slider item, and we've put a huge focus on making sure that the slider actually jumps to slide number 2 in this case, when the editor selects slide number 2 on the node content tree. That's how it's called. Another enhancement we did in Sevensite is about headlines and the headline structure. Oftentimes, it's very difficult for the editors to get a proper headline structure when it comes to a modular toolkit like we have in Sevensite. So we needed an easy way within the Neos backend to have it visible right away. So if you look at the slides, for example, you can see the annotated headline tags in pink and black, which are directly visible in the Neos backend. And because we make use of our headline package, which provides a headline component, this is basically the case in every single headline. There's no headline that doesn't have these headline tags, even it's in a Fusion-only rendering. Let's talk a bit about creative flexibility, about the possibilities editors have in Sevensite. One of the use cases we tried to solve was the definition of colors within the Neos CMS. For example, there are color scopes, right? So we have this color picker, but there's more to it. You don't select a color for each element. Instead, you select a so-called color scope, which would then apply color values to all the nested elements. For example, button colors, headline, and text colors. This is especially useful because it just saves time for when editing content within Neos. And eventually, the editor is going to be happy, as seen on the image before. In the Neos backend, you are able to create these color scopes on your own. They are grouped into certain design tokens. For example, as you can see here, we have like an accent color scope, which contains groups about primary, decorative colors, call to action colors, and so on. So by being able to edit these color scopes directly within Neos, we have created a way that allows editors to integrate their CI, their colors, and also their fonts into the Sevensite Neos website. So what you can see here is just an example of how the font is chosen. Right now, we are actually limited to Google Web Fonts, so that when we have like 30 Google Web Fonts integrated right now, and these are selectable on this little widget. Niklas is going to tell you some more about marketing and target grouping and what kind of new possibilities we have for Sevensite.
So while we finished Sevensite as a product, the main question was, what would be the users we face? What users, what customers will we have then when the first Sevensite is booked? And we made a few personas, which could be a potential customer. First, there is Stefan Siebenacker, a hotel and restaurant owner. He just needs a legally safe and a secure and safe website. He doesn't want to take care about it, and probably he just has a low budget for a website. Then there is Jasmin Siebenstein. She's a marketing manager at a medium-sized company. She needs powerful tools in Sevensite, works daily with the website, and she is working together with her colleagues. Probably that medium-sized company also has a medium budget. And there's Robert Siebeneicher. He's a publishing director at a big publisher. He wants only the best for his employees, but he needs individual adjustments on his website. He wants it really, really that way, and there is no alternative. But he maybe has a larger budget than the other ones. So that is when we come up with a solution for all three personas and created our tariffs that everybody can get his personal Sevensite on a starter, a standard, or an individual Sevensite. If you are interested more in detail, just ask us the next days. We will tell you a bit more in detail. When it comes to marketing, we experienced that demo websites deployed in minutes, we have the possibility with the great hosting, is the key. So we can give the customer, after the first conversation, we can give the customer a demo instance, get his logo inside, get some of his images inside, and he can just check it out, can test the Sevensite, and then hopefully books it. And what gains a lot of positive experience at the user was the first look Neos experience, we call. So maybe you also experienced it with some customers. If a completely new user, which maybe comes from WordPress before, comes into Neos and sees how easy it is to edit content, it's a wow effect. They say, wow, so easy, I never thought that it could be so easy to implement a website like that. And we use Sevensite as a tool for agencies. Not just for us as an agency, also for other agencies. For example, we have three partners which are already distributing Sevensites for their customers in cooperation with us. So it's a call to action for you. If you maybe have a project you want to test Sevensite with, just get in contact with us. We can give you a demo in minutes, and you can check out Sevensite together with your customer. Maybe it's the right choice also for you. Thank you for being here and listening to us. Maybe there are some questions. I don't know.
Let's find out. Well, what does that mean? We had to make it shorter.
There were slides left. Okay.
Yes.
Right, there are some questions, and I think we can spend 2 or 3 minutes on them. Here's a good one. When a customer cancels a module, what happens with the content built with this module?
Cancels I think I get the question anyway.
One module.
Yeah.
Since the module is still installed in the Sevensite, the content is available after the cancel date, but he cannot edit it anymore or create new ones of that module type, now type, and so on. When there's a bigger module like events, for example, the customer wants to cancel, we get in touch with the customer, tell him, hey, you cannot use that and that anymore, and find a solution face by face.
In the backend, it's basically based on the node privileges you already know. So we have configuration loader that is in sync with the API and creates a dynamic configuration. So when that module is no longer booked, the module is still there, but with the added node privileges, it's no longer editable. It's still there. That being said, by using those privileges and reserving like administrator rights for us, we always have the opportunity to create those elements within that Neos installation as a demo. Like we can show them, hey, here's what the side panel would look like on your page. And it's also a nice way of marketing and for upselling those modules as towards, in addition to the base tariff.
So basically, we talk to each other, we talk to the customers, and get a solution then.
One thing I want to say to that, we have, like, for example, a module that is based around DeepL translations, right? Where obviously customers can, and they do, book that package for a single month, translate their websites into the other language, and then cancel the subscription of that module. That's, however, still a win because the customer profits from that. And when the customer profits from that, like, we are happy when the customer is happy with Neos-CMS because we love Neos-CMS and that's what we will try to broaden the usage of. So yeah, that's basically a repetition, but yeah.
All right, thank you. And another question here. You went into some detail already. Is there manual setup still involved in setting up a client instance, or is everything automated?
The setup of the instance itself, it's completely automated. When we set up a demo to put a logo or some images on it, that's manually work from us. But just the setup to get it up and running is just one click for us.
We have ideas to make even that, like to automate even that, by with the help of AI, as heard earlier. There's tons of possibilities for us to explore when it comes to this. But yeah, as you said.
Future plans.
Yeah.
All right, and the last question I have right now, maybe very specific. You said your infrastructure knows about the active Sevensite instances, and the question is it possible to have a not connected instance?
Not connected to the API was the question maybe, or? Yes? Okay. Currently it's not, it would work. There's a fallback mode when the API maybe is not available or something, but you are very limited in that what you can use these completely logic to have what modules the customer booked and so on is then not available, and so you cannot use everything. Theoretically, it's possible, but not the use case we want to force on that.
It's worth pointing out, however, that these services all run within Ionos, so that there's no external connection to an API that could break down. So it's all internally connected.
Yeah, it's all internal network. Then because you can't put it out of the network, because then the services wouldn't be available. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for the demonstration and all the information about Sevensite, the website as a service platform that you've developed. Thank you very much. A round of applause, please.
Dankeschön.
Vielen Dank.
And as Niklas and Patrice were very punctual and on time, you now have the opportunity to go downstairs to the main stage where we have the Neos Awards right now in 2 minutes. So thank you very much for being here and see you in a few minutes on the main stage. Thank you.